Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Predictability is a wonderful quality in a parent, but for parents estranged from an adult child, it's almost more of a requirement. Being a little bit unpredictable can also be good occasionally, but only when it's on purpose and creates a pleasant surprise for your child. I'll talk about that later. The reason I want to talk today about being a predictable parent from your adult child's point of view is that parental predictability builds goodwill. And without goodwill, reconciliation can be harder to come by. Let's take an example of the impact of predictability, or lack thereof, on relationships. Imagine you're an employee and you have a boss who's unpredictable. One day she says to you, "I'll be gone all afternoon, so you'll have to work independently." But then suddenly at 2 o'clock, there she is, sticking her head in your office and asking you for a progress update. Or maybe you've got a supervisor who says, "Meet me in my office tomorrow morning at 8:30 sharp." And then when you show up at 8:30, he's not there, and he rolls in at 9:15. Sometimes he tells you absolutely nothing about his schedule, so you don't have any idea when you'll see him and when you won't. Most employees don't appreciate unpredictability in their bosses. If a manager says she'll be out all day, they want to trust that she really will be gone. And if she says she'll be somewhere at a certain time, they like to be able to bank on that. Predictability helps employees relax and focus on their work. Unpredictability in someone who holds power in your life is stressful. Why am I talking about bosses and employees? Well, it might be strange for you to think about things in quite this way, but your estranged adult child may be mentally putting you in a similar category to bosses, supervisors, and other unequal relationships. Whether you feel powerful or not, it doesn't matter. As the parent, you are not your child's peer, nor are you ever powerless in regards to your child. You've held power in her eyes, like it or not, since she was small. And in certain ways, you will always have an unequal relationship because of that history. You'll never be peers, no matter how smart or capable she is as an adult. One of you had full responsibility for the other's well-being for years. It was a one-sided deal. You made decisions for your child, and he didn't have the same authority to do that for you. And because of those dynamics, your relationship will always be different from every other relationship that either of you has. Being predictable makes everyone easier to deal with. And if your child is thinking about you as something of a powerful player in his life, like a supervisor at work, then being easy to deal with could nudge you over time back toward having not a peer relationship, but a normal parent-adult-child relationship. So if you want to think about giving your child the gift of being easy to deal with as a parent, make sure that you're predictable. Your schedule of contact is perhaps the best way to do that when you're estranged. Most parents reach out from time to time, most of the parents I work with. And if you're doing that or have done that, here are a few specific points to consider. Number one, tell them when you're going to reach out to them, and then do so only at that time, not before and not after. 2, ask them if your contact is too frequent. If the answer is yes, you can cut it in half or follow whatever schedule they suggest. 3, if they tell you don't call me, I'll call you when I'm ready, or something like that, then immediately say, okay, it will be hard to follow that request on special days like your birthday and holidays, but I will respect your wishes. 4, then follow that request to the letter. No contact, not even on special days. And it's okay for you privately to grieve around those days. It is a loss not to just be able to reach out, especially during special times. But that doesn't mean that your grief should be allowed to bully you into creating unpredictability in your child's life. 5, if you've been reaching out regularly on a schedule and you decide to stop doing that for a while, you might let your child know that you're stopping and when you'll resume if you know. Then do what you said you'd do unless they make a different request. Remember that if your child wants to hear from you more, they can say so. You have power, but they also have input into what happens between you. The sad fact is that life will happen within and around and between the two of you while this estrangement is in place. Unpredictable events in life or surges of emotions in you shouldn't necessarily dictate your behavior. If you're in doubt as to whether to contact your child when you said you wouldn't, the answer is almost always don't. But things can happen. We have a flow chart in the library at reconnectionclub.com called Is Contact Necessary? Reconnection Club members can download that by going to the library, clicking on Documents, and looking for Is Contact Necessary? Because there are times when it is, even during estrangement. But mostly, it's not. Giving your child the space he requested, as hard as it will be for you at times, is considered an act of goodwill by many an estranged adult child. Behaving predictably around all contact is the shiny bow on that gift. Please don't think that by not continually reaching out and trying to reconcile with your child, or by not extending invitations to family gatherings to an estranged son or daughter, that it means you're being a terrible parent. It does not work that way. In fact, respecting your child's wish for distance and being totally predictable about your contact, well, those are indications of not only generosity, but emotional maturity, which looks good on everyone, especially parents. And here's something to consider. The less you contact your child when she's indicated that she wants space, the more likely her door is to spontaneously open later once she's had a chance to miss you. I know that waiting is hard, that you miss your child. But there's not always an immediate solution, even to very painful problems like this. Whatever is creating her desire for distance right now could diminish naturally with enough time and space. So make sure you provide those in a predictable way. If your child can depend on you to do what you say you're going to do and to not do what you say you won't do, in essence to respect his wishes, it will feel much safer for him to try coming back together again. Realize that in many cases, holding on to your child through contact could have the unintended effect of pushing him away. Make sure you get support while you practice being predictable to your child, or you may not be able to sustain the strength that it takes to follow through on your plan. Now let me end with a few words about what I call strategic unpredictability. Your child may think she knows you well enough to expect that she'll be disappointed in how you behave. If your child sees you as selfish or needy or narcissistic or critical, it's okay to be unpredictable by listening with empathy and apologizing well. If your child thinks you incapable of honoring his wishes, it's perfectly okay to surprise him by doing just that. If she believes you're pining away without her because you're so needy, it's okay to go off on holiday instead of waiting at home for her to call on your birthday. These are the kinds of unpredictability that convince your child you're capable of change. And that's important because it means the two of you could have a different and better relationship in the future. So, as a rule of thumb, always do what you say you'll do, but don't always do what your child expects, especially when they expect too little. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.